Good evening. We're coming to you live from the Gatton Student Center on the University of Kentucky campus. This wonderful facility opened in August of this year and has quickly become one of the most vibrant locations on campus. We're excited to answer your questions tonight. First, I'd like to introduce our panel. On the far right is Jennifer Franson, a pre-law advisor. Next to me is Dr. Christia Brown, Associate Chair from Psychology. To my left is Maria Sanchez, who is a triple major in political science, environmental and sustainability studies, and international studies. Next to her is Dr. Mohammed Zanoun, who is representing international studies and possibly sociology if the questions come. And then on the end is Dr. Dan Morey, the Director of Undergraduate Studies from Political Science. My name is Jesse Hedge. I'm the Assistant Dean for Undergraduate Affairs, and I'll be moderating tonight. Tonight's panel is here to answer your questions about the social sciences. Our social science majors include anthropology, economics, international studies, environmental and sustainability studies, geography, gender and women's studies, health, society and populations, political science, psychology, sociology, and our newest major is U.S. culture and business practices. We'll also answer questions about student experiences and pre-professional requirements. Now, we'll likely only answer questions related to the social sciences, but if you have questions about admissions or scholarships or any of those things, feel free to ask those, and then we'll decide if we can answer them at the time, and if not, then we'll get back to you on the answers. So tonight we also have the people here will answer the questions about those specific majors, but if you're interested in other social sciences, we'll try those as well. Now, we have a series of our most commonly asked questions that we'll be covering today, but what we really want is to hear from you. So if you have questions, feel free, jump in, ask those questions. We want to hear your questions. Again, we have a series of questions we're going to answer, but please go on YouTube Live and let us know what you want to know, and we'll answer those as well. So we're scheduled to go for about an hour, but we'll keep going. If you have questions, we'll keep going all night long. I don't think they turn the lights out here until about midnight, so we'll be good. So, but we'll probably go about an hour. So, all right. So our first question is for you, Maria. Pretty simple. Why UK, and why political science is where you started?
Yeah. So when I first started applying to colleges my senior year, to be completely honest, I didn't really think that college was going to be an option for me. Just from my background, I wasn't sure if my family was going to be able to afford it. And throughout high school, I did competitive policy debate, and I was offered a scholarship to attend the #1 debate program in the nation. We've beaten some very prestigious institutions, and so I'm really excited to be at UK, to be a part of the debate team, and to represent UK whenever we compete at other universities. In terms of why political science, I've always been very passionate about politics. It's something that was always on at home in the news. It affected me personally. I was always just very interested in how the law worked, and in the future I'm really interested in understanding how citizens can influence political institutions and create a more equitable system.
Great. All right, so we already have a first question coming in, and that is, how common is it to triple major? Jennifer, I think you probably know that more than anybody else.
Sure. As an advisor here at the school, I do come in contact with quite a few students that are interested in more than one major. A lot of times we have a double major, and then we also do dual degrees quite often. It is a little uncommon to have a triple major, but it's not something that you can't do, obviously, because we have a great example right here. So it really just depends on the credits that you bring in. It depends on the areas of study that you're doing. There can be overlap between the different majors, and a lot of it depends on how much time you plan on staying here. You would likely have more than just the 120 credit hours that you normally would need to graduate with just one degree or one major. But that's something you could work on with your academic advisor.
I know in psychology we have a lot of double majors, and even I have quite a few triple majors in my classes. So we have people that do psychology and Spanish and gender and women's studies, for example. So they put them in some kind of combination, partly because we don't have a ton of set requirements, and so it's pretty easy for them to combine it with other things. So. Mhm. Mhm.
Unique experience to get you set where you want to go, right? So a lot of people get political science and then they'll go out and get gender and women's studies because they're interested in that policy area. So the research background of political science, the expertise of gender and women's studies, and then other research skills. And that's uncommon at other universities I've been to, where it's usually really hard to double major. Just it takes extra years. But here, the curriculum is set up in such a way that it's easy for our students to do that.
Added the international studies major last year, and so for me it was a change of plans. Originally I wanted to go to law school, then I decided to instead go to graduate school, and while I had already finished my political science major requirements because I came in with a lot of AP credits, I decided that the international studies major was designed in a way that allowed me to really focus on the area that I wanted to do research in, which for me is Latin American politics. And so I decided to explore, go a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I think a triple major is definitely an option if you're someone that is driven, you know what you want to do, and you're, just generally really interested in a wide variety of backgrounds.
Great.
Yeah, and it seems like we see a lot of double majors and minors as well that with the languages. We had the humanities live last night, and they talked about that too, and that a lot of students that have a passion for languages will throw that on with a double major with a lot of different.
International studies, we actually required from the students to learn another language, and some of these students prefer to continue with this language as a second major or as a minor, and this is very interesting for many students in at UK. Yeah.
Certainly makes it more marketable
exactly.
after your time at the university.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
All right, so our next question, I guess we'll go to Jennifer again. And hey, what major will help me get into law school?
So the great thing about law school is that there is no specific major that you have to get into law school. Really, the major that's going to get you into law school is going to be one that you excel in, that you really enjoy, and that you're passionate about. You don't have to even declare a specific type of law that you want to practice. Everybody just gets the same JD from law school. So I would say any major can get you to law school if you do well.
All right, this is for Dr. Mori. What are the internship opportunities in political science?
Yeah, so this one is going to take a little while. We have a lot of internship opportunities here in political science. We'll start at the top. We have the one in Washington, D.C. It's the Wildcats at the Capitol program. And this was redone about 1.5 years ago. So the program is totally rebuilt from the ground up. And so this is a joint effort from the College of Arts and Sciences, the President's Office here at UK, and student government have all contributed to this program, whether funding, personnel, or any of those sorts of things. And the program is really nice. So every member of the Kentucky legislative representatives and in the Senate accept students from the University of Kentucky. So we can get you into any of those offices to work. And what the program does is not only are you there working in D.C., but then you also take classes from a UK professor in Washington, D.C. So most internships require you to enroll in another university. So you're from another university, you go to Washington, D.C., you got to take classes from another university. But this program, through the support of the President's Office, we actually have a faculty member in Washington, D.C. with the students. So you're taking UK classes from a UK professor in Washington, D.C. So you're not just dropped in there and left alone. And the students are housed together as well. So we have joint housing, so all the UK students are together, creating sort of a feeling of community, right, amongst them. So that's the big one, a very competitive program. Junior year, senior year is when our students are going for that one. Closer to home, we have the CLIP program, the Kentucky Legislative Internship Program. So every other year on the long legislative cycle here in Kentucky, we place our students in Frankfurt with various representatives and also working in the various committees. This one's a good program, again, very competitive. I think we have 12 to 15 students there right now working on the CLIP program. Again, there's funding for these programs. One of the studies out there showed that a lot of people that could do internships came from more affluent backgrounds, and so it was a limiting factor. And so political science and the university worked very hard to provide funding so that no student will be left out from those opportunities. Outside of those two, say, well-designed programs that are, sort of all-encompassing, we have a lot of internship opportunities here. Students work here locally. We had recently a student interested in sort of the law background. He interned with the UK Police Department, right? So he's working here on campus. A lot of our students go down into downtown Lexington, which is a short walk down the hill. They work at the Fayette County Attorney's Office, places like that. But really the world is open. About 2 years ago, one of my students spent the summer in Paris working at the US Embassy. So there are wide open opportunities here locally in DC and really globally. It really depends on what you want to do and where you want to go. But we have opportunities to match it.
Excellent, excellent. What about either of the other majors? Do you have internship opportunities?
Yeah, in international studies, we have many internship here and from outside the United States. One of our major students, actually, he got internship during his study in Jordan to work with Syrian refugees, and now he got a job in Jordan and he worked there and he's very happy. So I think internship in, for example, in international studies, or these students who study international studies, they actually have many opportunities to work with other organization, international corporation, work to get after graduation, they can get jobs, yeah, for their future.
We offer is called clinical internships in psychology, and so students are really all over town. So these are typically local ones, but psychology is such a broad degree in many ways that students can work for psychological clinics, they can shadow psychologists doing that type of work, they can work for lots of nonprofits, they can work in programs focused on kids. We have some internships that do things like run Girls on the Run organizations at schools. We have people that do work in some kind of marketing capacity. So I would say in any given year we have 100 or so students that are taking some type of internship in their junior or senior year within our major. And so then when they get to graduate school, there's also internships we have for those that are going into clinical psychology. But at the undergrad level, we have a really active kind of network of internship sites, so we work really carefully to place you in one so that we connect with them, and so that it's always kind of a easy transition for you to work there in the field and then also kind of report back and to see how it's going in the department.
Good. All right, excellent. Next question is back for you again, Jennifer. And this is actually one that a lot of students have a question about, and that is, what's the difference between a double major and a dual degree?
Okay, so a double major, you're going to just get one degree. You're going to have one diploma, so to speak. It's going to list both of the majors on it. This is still going to be just 120 credit hours to graduate. You're only going to have one set of college requirements to complete. And with a dual degree, that's where you're going to actually have two separate pieces of paper with a major on each one, two separate degrees. So you get a Bachelor of Science in something, you get a Bachelor of Arts in something else. If the two programs are in different colleges, meaning one's in Arts and Sciences, the other one maybe Gatton School of Business, then you will have to complete both schools' college requirements. But that's going to be a total of 144 credit hours to get a dual degree. So that's the major difference.
And which one's more common?
I would say the double major tends to be more common, but I have seen an increase in students really striving to get the dual degree because they've come in with so many credits already, so that sets them up to have that space to actually complete 2 degrees in 4 years.
Excellent. All right, so the next one is for Dr. Zanoun, and that is, why major in international studies?
Yeah, this is very interesting question because international studies is interdiscipline major, and in our program we actually let our students to be get exposed to many different perspectives, knowledge, statistics, geography, geopolitics, history, and actually in this case they can understand the world differently. And international studies also, it's very popular now in the market. Why? Because many corporation, international corporation, in globalization era, actually people prefer the worker or the new generation who knows about the globe. They work with other culture, with other societies, and actually in international studies program, we give our students this opportunity to understand the world and to understand different perspective of knowledge in their life and in their research. So it's very popular, very attractive, and actually it's required as a major or minor for many businesses and many jobs these days. Yeah.
All right. Dr. Brown has a question for you, and that is, what can you do with a psychology degree?
You can do pretty much anything with a psychology degree. I mean, so we study human thoughts and behaviors, so that pretty much covers every job there is. And so, and we also have people that study animal behaviors and thoughts too. So really, any job that there is. So at the undergraduate level, you can really have any job. Lots of people go into businesses. Go into some type of marketing or some type of job like that. Most of our students go to some type of graduate program afterwards, and in that it's a really big broad range of what you can do. So oftentimes people go and do clinical work, so they want to either be social workers or kind of therapists. A lot of people go and become social psychologists, and they can they can do research like what we do, or they can go for marketing firms, for example, and help them figure out how to do marketing campaigns or how to do surveys to the nation on something. They can go into developmental psychology, which is what I do, and people can do research. And I have friends that work for Lego. They design toys. I have friends that work for Sesame Workshop, figuring out how to best do things to show kids how to learn kindness, for example. And so we have some students that have gone on to work for Bose, and they help design how do you make the speaker more user-friendly. So it's really this broad degree that really is, if people are involved or interacting with it, psychology is a good place for them. I think a lot of people are interested in neuroscience, and so that's one of our newer majors. That's a combination between psychology and biology. And so a lot of people are studying neuroscience. They're often wanting to be pre-med, so we have a lot of pre-med students in psychology. And that's really the study of the brain at kind of different levels of behavior or the actual structure. So it's a great going to med school degree.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so this next question would be kind of for everyone here, and that let's just talk about some of the education abroad opportunities that are available here at UK.
I'm teaching. Can I start?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to Paris in June. The whole month of June, I'm teaching a class on Islamophobia. And then I'm also teaching a class on gender and sexuality. And so it's through the Kentucky Institute of International Studies. It's part of what UK does. And so we take a group of our students, and I've done it before in Copenhagen. I taught those classes, and now we're going to Paris in a few months. So I take a group of the students I have, students I've talked about it with, and we'll go and we'll walk around the Louvre and talk about how gender is displayed, and then we'll go to a mosque and talk about kind of Islamophobia with some leaders there, and talk about the kind of conflicts that are going on and some of the reasons that go into it. So the social psychology of these real life issues, it's fabulous. I didn't know faculty could do that until like a few years ago, and I thought this is the greatest job perk ever. I spend a month with my students, we learn all this stuff together, and it is life-changing, I think, for all of us. Yeah.
What about some of the other majors?
Also, I know sociology and international languages. Also, they have programs of education abroad in Jordan, in Spain, in Ecuador. Sociology department send students to Ecuador and Spain, France, and other European and other Middle Eastern countries. And I think many students like that because they learn a lot. They contact with other culture, with other societies, other language, and especially for example, our students who learn foreign languages, when they go to the original country, they can communicate in their daily life with the people who speak this language, and actually they started to get very important skill in their speaking, writing, and communication. So we have many at UK programs that send our students abroad for different fields and for different classes abroad.
Yeah, and I think some of it is the structure, right? Because we had the 4-week structure that a lot of places do, and like political scientists will go somewhere, and so it's more like a class that goes abroad. Then we have agreements with other universities, so it's easy for the students to go to these various universities. So a little less formal, right? You're going and you're actually enrolling in another country's university, and then students find their own, right? They'll just find their own universities and go create their own study abroad. So there's different tiers of the study abroad, whether you want the all-in-one experience like you have, or just going and taking classes at the other schools. And most of you who've been to US's or done that, right? You go take the classes there, you bring back the syllabus, we equate it, it goes right into your degree plan, and so you don't lose anything, right? So going to those other things, we just equate it to the classes that you would have taken here, and you graduate right on time if you do go to another university.
And with us being a large university, we have those international connections, right?
Yeah.
So we can make opportunities. For example, last year we sent 3 students to China on kind of a last-minute thing, but because of an international connection we had, and they spent the summer studying in Zhuhai, and then they did this Silk Road tour that was just absolutely incredible. And I think if we didn't have these international connections that we have as a university, those are some kind of opportunities that you might miss.
Made fairly seamless, right? The students there's not a lot of hurdles that the students have to get through to go do this. Sit down, talk to your advisor, talk to the international programs people, and it happens, right? There's not a lot that you have to do, to get there. And I think you can use your financial aid and those things, right? It all carries over, and so it's very easy for the students to do. Again, planning it out with your advisor when to do it and to get the classes right, that's the biggest burden you have. After that, again, you can go almost anywhere.
All right, we could talk about study abroad for the rest of this time, but we probably need to move on. So, all right, so this is a question for you, Maria. From your perspective, what are the classes like?
Yeah, so definitely a change from high school. It was very refreshing in the sense that you have this newfound liberty to choose, whichever courses you're really interested in. I think particularly, I'm going to plug the political science department, but there's a lot of freedom in what type of courses you want to choose. The professors, I think, are really professional, and I think they really try to work with the students to ensure that everyone is really understanding the material. But there's also the other side where because you have more liberty in choosing your classes, there's, I think, more pressure on you to ensure that, you're going to class, that you're doing your assignments. Generally, I found that a lot of my classes have been relatively small, so for me that has been a really positive experience because I get to raise my hand, ask questions during class, engage with my professors. I go to office hours and I get to talk to my professors about the type of research that they're doing. I'm interested in going to graduate school, so I also get to talk to them, if they have any advice for me. But generally, classes, I think, are more fun than they are in high school because you get to choose, you have more liberty. And in terms of classwork, I think that really depends on each professor. I have classes where I have, homework every night. I have reading that's due the next class. And there are other classes where I have to take 2 exams, and that'll be my grade for the rest of the semester. So there's not really like a rule on how classes will be like, but generally I think you should try to keep an open mind, and you should try to find resources outside of class to really help you and make sure that you're on the right track.
So as a student, do you feel like the resources are here that you may need if you need help in a class?
Yeah, I think the resources are there. I think there are a lot of people on this campus that are interested in ensuring that you do your best. But the one thing I will say is that you have to really seek out and, take some initiative because, a lot of my professors, they're like, we're not going to hold your hand. And it's relatively true. I think if you tell people that you're struggling, they will always point you to the right directions. And so the resources are there. You just have to take advantage of them.
We instituted a psychology tutoring program. So every Monday through Thursday, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we have a tutoring office that's that's staffed with students that have gotten A's in the class. And so anybody from the 100 level, so intro psychology, all the way through the core, the 300 level, can stop there at any time during the week and get tutoring, whether it be, can you help me study for this test, or can you go over my notes, or I don't understand this one concept. And so we like it, even if students don't use it. I think students like knowing it's there, you know? So.
Yeah, and one additional thing that I would add is one of the things that really helped me out my freshman year was being in UK 101. And so I was in the pre-law track, and part of that made me realize that that law school wasn't for me. And I really enjoyed UK 101 in the sense that there are a lot of resources at the university, but you kind of need some structure to, you know, just kind of let you know what those resources are. And so that was one of the things that really, really helped me adapt to the college environment.
Yeah, if I could, I teach UK 101, the pre-law section, and the main thing is just, you know, the resources are out there, but you may not know how to find them. And that's what is so great about the UK 101 class. Not just that it gives you information about tips and ideas about going to law school or helping you decide not to go to law school, which is just as important. We also work on letting you know, if you're struggling in this area, this is the person you can talk to, and here's their email address, and here's where they're at on campus, because it's a very big campus. So the main thing I would tell a student that feels like they're struggling, contact your academic advisor. That is absolutely what we're there for. Contact your professors, but I know a lot of students initially may not feel comfortable contacting their professors. They're shy. They don't want to let the professor know they're struggling. And so a lot of times your academic advisor can really help you out. There are so many resources on campus, and that's the one thing I really do love about UK is that whatever your issue is, there's probably somebody that can help you solve it.
And over my years here, UK has gotten better at centralizing those resources, because like a lot of it's at presentation you in the library. So students go to the library, the whole basement is basically dedicated to helping students in various ways. And so over my time, I've seen them bring all those resources, at least to make them a little more accessible. There's one place you can go and you can get all that help all in one place, at least most of it.
All right, we'll move on to the next question, another pre-law question. And that is, what activities or groups on campus should I be involved in to improve my chances to get into law school?
So the main thing is there are certain groups on campus that are really law related, specifically the pre-law fraternity. That's a really good resource. It's full of obviously like-minded individuals that are really working towards the goal of going to law school. They do programming with UK law. They have study sessions, that sort of thing, to get ready for the LSAT. So that in itself can be a really great resource for people that believe they're interested in going to law school. For other groups and activities on campus, again, this is kind of like, what major should you have? I want you to really find the activities and the groups that you connect with, that you are passionate about. You know, quality versus quantity. When you are filling out an application for law school, if you just did 5,000 different things on campus, it's going to look like you did those things to just pad the application. Whereas if you picked 2 or 3 groups or organizations or volunteer activities, that's going to show that you had a real passion for those things. And if you kept it up over your years while you were here, that shows you had a really good commitment to those things. So that's what I would say in terms of the question, and I get it a lot, what groups or activities to be involved with. Honestly, anything from Habitat for Humanity to going on a missions trip that are sometimes organized by groups on campus. We have like a Big Brothers Big Sisters organization, and then we also have, you know, social activities, and those are just important, working with charities. So really it's finding your niche and sticking to it.
So Maria, have you been involved in any organizations on campus?
Well, I'm part of the debate team here at UK, and that really takes up a lot of my time. But I have friends that are involved in Mock Trial, which is another organization that I think if you're interested in law school can be, just try to get you into the mindset. There's also a Women in Political Science group, and so if you're interested in, finding a community that supports you through the law school process, I think that you can find those communities. We have a separate speech and debate team that, if you're interested in more of the creative aspect of speech, then you can definitely join that. But I found my home in the debate team, and for me, that has been the one experience that I think I will likely write about in my applications.
We also have a psychology club, so a slightly different kind of theme, but we have a psychology club that any psychology major can join. There's no GPA requirement or anything like that. I'm also the director for the Center for Equality and Social Justice, and we have undergraduates that can affiliate with that organization too. And then I'm also the scholar in residence for what's right next to us in Gatton, right off camera, is the Martin Luther King Center. And so that's a really diverse group of students that come together for different kinds of programming. They have movie showings, they have service kind of things that they can get involved in. It's a really great group of students. It's a really safe space to talk about issues about social justice and equality. So I think that's one of the ones that I know students are really engaged in and committed to, and are really just fabulous groups of students kind of interacting with one another in like-minded ways.
And that's just, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think most departments have an honor society, right, of some form. Most departments have that. And of course, the ones that work closer with us, we have the college Democrats and the college Republicans, right? So, there's political affiliations. And we brought all three of those groups together, and they watched the local congressional debate together. So we had the Honor Society and the college Democrats and Republicans together having one, thing. They watched the debate and then sort of had a little debate on their own together.
Wait a minute, Republicans and Democrats together talking?
I know, right? Yeah, and it went very well.
Yeah,
Very well received.
All right, good.
Also, we have International Studies Club for the students, and they make a meeting for everybody wants to discuss specific international issues each month, okay? And they have a debate about that, and I think this is very interesting for giving our students this opportunity to present their ideas and their understandings for international issues. Yeah.
And start to use your education,
Yeah,
right? What
exactly.
you're learning in class to then actually start to apply it.
Exactly. It's preparing them to be good good teachers, good professors, good, in their real life. And that's what we do at UK, actually. We prepare them for the market, for their future. Yeah.
It's, we talked about all these kind of academic clubs and analytical clubs and things like that, but there's also a lot of just fun things here, right? I mean, there's intramural sports.
Right.
That's active all the time. I heard the other day that there was a squirrel watching club. I mean, I don't know who joins that, but hey, if you're into squirrel watching, then go ahead.
I think you made that one up.
No, I don't. Somebody else may have made it up. I was just repeating what I heard. But no, I was told there's over 500 clubs on campus. So if you're not involved in the club, it's because you don't want to be. It's not because you couldn't find one that you fit in. I don't think.
Exactly.
So, and if you want to make one, I think that the process is pretty simple for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So move on to the next question. So for you, Dr. Mori, what can I do with the political science major?
Right, so a running theme, right? We've had that for most of these majors, and we get this a lot. So people tend to think if you're a political science major, you're either going to law school or you're going to run for political office. One of those is true, law school. My dad always thought I was going to run for office. Like, what are you going to be a political science major? I had no interest in running for office whatsoever. About 1/3 of our majors are pre-law, right? They come in declared pre-law, so a large chunk of our majors are taking that route. Most of the rest, right, what we're teaching you is it's political science, heavy on the science half of that. Is we teach you research skills. And so most people coming out with a political science degree, they're going to take a job as a research analyst of some form, whether they're working in a government relations department, a private company, or they're working in the legislature, or they're working for a politician. They're going to have you're going to be trained and ready to go do that. So creating hypotheses, going out and testing them, gathering the data, and writing the reports, right? That's really what we do. A lot of times if you've heard a debate going on and somebody cites a report and they say, right, there's a recent study out that links guns to violence. Usually the person that wrote that report was a political scientist, right? They had the background to be doing it. They're the ones doing that type of work. So our number one hires, almost always, our number one hire here from UK, it's kind of odd, is the US Army. Apparently we have a good connection with the ROTC program, but after that, they're going into various research analyst positions with healthcare and then other areas that they're interested in. One of my recent grads went to work, she was very interested in like issues to do with homelessness, and so she went to work for an advocacy group and she was writing research reports on how to change governmental policy to increase access for people that are homeless or, I don't know what the term would be, they didn't have good, adequate adequate housing. And so she took her interest, her education, and went to Washington, D.C. and started putting it to use.
You mentioned the Army, so all my veteran friends would probably disown me if I didn't put in a plug for the Army and Air Force ROTC program here at UK. They're both outstanding programs, both do well nationally, and there's been a lot of cadets that come out of those programs who are now general officers in
Right.
In different branches of the service. So the ROTC programs here do really, really well.
We had, it was a number of years ago, one of the grads came back, and I can't remember his exact position, but he was like in the top 10 in the Air Force hierarchy coming out of UK ROTC. So they have had great success. I see more Army for some reason. I think the Air Force do more of the physical sciences side, so there's some of that, but we get a lot of Army in political science.
My graduate student is a research scientist for the U.S. Navy.
There you
So
go.
she got her PhD with me, and now she is in the U.S. Navy and loves it.
Right.
She just got research scientist of the year in the U.S. Navy.
Oh,
It was
nice.
a huge, yes, it was
Yeah.
fabulous. And it was also, she had research, she had research skills. So even though she did my kind of research here, which is gender and ethnic stereotypes, then she was in the Navy, she was testing dive equipment.
the
But loved
skills
it.
transfer.
But really, the question, you ask a question, you figure out how to find the answers, you find the answers, you write a report, and then they would implement her findings.
Right.
And it's a really satisfying position for her. So yeah, you can do really anything with these degrees.
I think that's really a really important point, and that is that there's some degrees I call them vocational degrees, right? If you have an engineering degree, you're probably going to be an engineer. If you have an education degree, you're likely to be a teacher. But there's these other degrees, like what we're talking about here, that you can really do anything with. It's the skills that you're learning that then transfer to whatever field that you go into.
And I think for the political science department in particular, or a political science major, there's a lot of emphasis, I think, in writing, in critical thinking about the issues that are, going on around you. A lot of emphasis, I think, on, reading critically and being able to, I think, synthesize information and being able to, present it to an audience, because ultimately, I know a lot of people don't go into political office, but at the same time, there's kind of this emphasis of wanting to change the world around you. And so I think the political science major gives you a lot of the key skills that, are useful, like you all said, in any job.
You should ask her my question, Jesse, because she did a better job articulating it than I did.
I will say too, many of the majors in the social sciences,
Yeah.
that's the basis.
Yeah.
It's really taking in just a wealth of knowledge and being able to distill it down into a very succinct and an accurate view of something, and being able to then, like you said, produce that report that then others that maybe aren't in the field that you studied in are actually going to use and going to implement your ideas. So, as somebody that's advising students from all across the social sciences, that is a common thread with all of the majors, I would say.
You know what? I think I'll actually take the next question here, and that is, I took a few dual enrollment courses in high school. How can I find out if those credits transfer? Well, first of all, they are most likely to transfer. Now, how they'll transfer is the question. So the easiest way to do it is just go to your search engine and type in University of Kentucky transfer equivalency.
Yeah.
When you do that, the website will come up. You'll select the university that you took those courses at, and then the course number, and it will tell you exactly how that transfers. If it happens to not transfer then all you have to do is collect the syllabus and then turn it into the university, and then one of these people will look at it and determine exactly how how it transfers. And so those credits will not be wasted. It's just how they're going to apply will just will be determined by which course it was and how it equates to the university.
And you turn that information into the admissions office.
Yes. So, all right, just another question for you, Maria. So, what's one of your favorite things about the political science department at UK?
Well, I think I've already spoken a little bit about the flexibility of the major in particular. I think there are a wide variety of courses that really appeal to different interests. So far, for example, I've taken a Latin American politics course, foreign relations course. There are a lot of courses relating to the courts. And so I think there's, just a breadth of courses that you can pick from. But I think one of my second favorite things are the faculty in the department. I think they are some of the most professional, some of the most well-experienced people that I have ever had the privilege to speak to. And I think they have a wide range of backgrounds, and it's also a very, I think, competitive environment. You find a lot of people that, want to, change the world, and they want to, be really amazing, political scientists. And so I think I really love the environment. I love the faculty. And I also just really enjoy how professors really make you feel like, the political science department is a home. And I've felt really welcome there. So yeah, I really go political science.
Sociology and international studies.
Yeah.
All majors here are very good.
Dr. Zanin, this next one's for you. And what do international studies majors do after they graduate?
Yeah, actually there are many things besides, of course, going to finish your master and you are a PhD, but also there are many fields. For example, advising and jobs data set last year, they mentioned around 50 positions asked for international studies major. Counseling, businesses, international corporation, working with UN organizations, and many. So there are many jobs are for international studies. And actually, the major of international studies or minor in international studies help the applicants to get the job. Actually, it increases his probability to get the job. Why? Because now it's in globalization era, people prefer the people who are familiar with international issues, international business. Marketing also ask for some people who are familiar with some international studies or international cultures or like that. So there are many jobs that besides, of course, working with social activist organizations, many things. Yeah. So.
All right, Dr. Brown, this one's for you. What makes the psychology department stand out from other universities?
Well, I think it's a lot of things, actually. So I think one of the great things about psychology at UK is that we have a lot of faculty. We're a pretty big department. We have more than 30 faculty, and we have a range of areas of expertise. And so what's, I think, really great here is you have faculty who have multi-million-dollar grants, for example, from NSF or NIH, and they're teaching undergrads and put a lot of effort into how do they translate the things that they know in the real research world into stuff that their students can really get excited about. And so we have students that are undergrads from the very beginning can get involved in these research labs, and they get to do all sorts of stuff. We have students that work on PTSD and how that leads to better kind of worse outcomes or better outcomes. We have people that talk about how socioeconomic status leads to attitudes about welfare, for example. We have people that study kids with ADHD and how they can better learn how to read stories. People that study adolescence and body image and how that's related to eating disorders. So it's this whole range of people those that study how alcohol affects your driving and your motor skills. It's this range of stuff, and it's faculty that are really doing the research. They're really doing the stuff that gets put into the textbooks, and they're the ones that are really interacting daily with their students. And so I think that's a really great part of our department, in that it's big. So as opposed to smaller schools where you don't have faculty doing really the day-to-day research. So we're big in that we're a Research 1 university, and so there's a lot of research that goes on. So students are really involved in that from every level of it. So they're the ones, for me, they're the ones that are actually going to schools and interviewing kids and collecting data. And yet we're small enough so that we still have that face-to-face contact with our students. And I think that's a really nice blend of, we care a lot about our undergrads. We spend a lot of attention on it. We're really proud of the fact that most of our faculty are really teaching undergrads at really every level, from the 100 all the way to the 500 level of classes. And it's a thing we're proud about. And I think it really benefits the students because they get to see what is research and how can I think about it in the classroom, but also in kind of real life.
That's always one of the questions when students come and meet. They always ask me what's the difference between coming to UK versus a regional school, one of the regional colleges, and it's the research. Right, I always tell them that they can read the book somewhere else, or they can learn from the people that are writing those books and doing that sorts of things. And that is the thing. If you come to UK, you got to get involved in research. That's the value added to going to this type of university. And as you mentioned, you got to be proactive about it, right? You go out there, you knock on doors. There's opportunities everywhere in all the departments, but getting involved and doing that research is what's going to set you apart when you graduate and either go to graduate school or go out on the job market. That's the UK difference.
195, which is kind of like UK 101, but it's just for our majors, and it teaches them about, these are all the labs here, this is how you do it. So it really is this step-by-step tutorial on, this is the type of email you send to the professor, this is how you look to see what research is going on, so that you don't have to come in not knowing. You don't have to come in and just try to figure it out. We really do tell you in your first year, this is how you do it. Because I think a lot of students come in not knowing. I think I was a first-generation college student. So when I went to college, I had no idea. I didn't even know my job was a job. I didn't know you could do research. And so it really I needed professors to hold my hand a bit and to say, come and do this, learn about this. And so I think we all have tried to really have that mentorship spirit in our department, and I think you see that in other departments as well. I think it makes the difference. It's like, how do you have the big school opportunities with a small school kind of sense of commitment to students?
You said something that kind of touched a chord with me, and that is first generation. I'm also a first generation college student. Any of you first?
Yeah, first generation.
Yeah. My goodness, look at this. Right, so we have all these first generation students that may be looking today and wondering, how do you do it, right? But we're looking at this panel here, and the majority of us were first generation students. So there are some things to learn, but there's also people that have been in your shoes and been where you are. And so it's really nice to have an opportunity to welcome those students here. And just because you're first gen doesn't mean that this isn't doable.
No, absolutely.
So, good deal. All right, so let's go to, we kind of answered that one already. How about another one for you, Maria? And that is, in your experience going through the political science department, what do you wish you'd done differently your freshman year to set you up for your future?
Yeah, I think I don't really have a lot of regrets about my freshman year. I think I approached it with a very open mind and with a growth mindset. I'm sure this hits a chord with psychology. But I think if I would have changed anything, I think I would have started to look for research opportunities, maybe my second semester. And I think that's something that's really important is, I had this idea that research was something that you would, just do your junior or your senior year. But I found out that there are a lot of professors out there that are willing to take you if you're willing to do the work. Once again, you have to reach out for those opportunities. But for me, I'm currently doing a research position with a professor, actually not in the political science department, but in the Word department. So that kind of shows you that there are a lot of different connections. There are a lot of different things that you can do with the political science with the political science major. But yeah, I think just my freshman year, I would have maybe thought a little bit more ahead in what I want to do, what type of experience I want to get, so that like once you get to your junior or your senior year and you're trying to apply to internships in Washington, D.C., or even just, undergraduate summer programs at other institutions that, you know, you're the best applicant that you can be. So just thinking ahead, I would say.
Yeah, because it is important. It builds. Students don't realize that. So they come in and they're doing low-level research work because, right, you're a freshman, you're a sophomore, you got to start low. Then you build up. And I've actually published with my undergrads. So I've published articles with undergrads, but they've gone through that process. And by the time they're seniors, they're ready for that level of research, and they get published before they leave here. But you do got to start low and work your way up.
Yeah, and even, you know, if you don't get a research opportunity or an internship right away your freshman year, it's about, like you said, building those connections with your professors who, you know, if you're interested in going to law school or going to graduate school, you're going to need a letter of recommendation, you know, at some point or another. So really building those connections, and you know, even if you don't need a rec letter, you still want to, you know, form those connections. And if you don't have an idea of what you want to do, you know, after you graduate, talking to your professors, even your TAs, I think are valuable experiences.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to bring up is, you know, if you wait until you start to look for a job to start to do things to build your resume, well, then you've probably made a mistake, right? Now, there's ways to go back and build that back up, but you've taken more time. If you start that early, then you have those great things on your resume from the very beginning.
More natural progression.
Yeah.
And it shows the consistency you talked about
Yes.
before, right? You just have 500 things all at once, or over time you were dedicated to something. Yeah.
Yeah, it shows you can commit to something
Right.
and follow through. And a lot of grad schools and law schools, that's really something they're looking for.
All right, Dr. Brown, I think the last question is going to go to you, and that are what are some differences between applied psychology and general psychology?
I think what this is getting at is one of the bigger distinctions within our department and within our field is those that do kind of applied work, which we think of as actually working with a person. So whether it be, you can be a therapist, for example. So if the person is depressed or having marital problems, you want to be a marriage and family therapist, or a child in a school and you're doing testing to see if they have dyslexia. Those are really applied types of psychology, and so it's thinking about how do you interact with people in that way. I have zero of those skills. I'm an experimental psychologist, and so I'm the more general experimental side of things. So I do research. I ask questions. So I don't know how to help anyone with any problems whatsoever. But what I do know how to do is ask questions about how do kids, in my case, learn about gender stereotypes or race discrimination, and how does that impact their academic outcomes when they're in elementary school. So I ask those types of questions. And so like we were talking about, I figure out, well, how do we ask the question? What's the hypothesis? How do we go and collect the data? How do we analyze it using statistics? And then how do we tell people what our findings are and make implications? So ours is kind of how do we learn about what people are doing? That's the real general or experimental side of psychology. And then the applied side is how do we make people's lives actually better? And so the applied side, they really inform one another. So people that are making each other's lives better are really looking to see, well, how do we talk to people about depression, right? We need to have research about depression before I can help counsel someone that is depressed. And so they really kind of are mutually kind of beneficial sides of the field.
Yeah.
All right, I want to cover a couple more things here before we finish. And one is about our living learning programs that we have. The University of Kentucky has several living learning programs on campus, and just for kind of a definition of that, you know, they're the dormitories on campus, but they are theme-based. And typically, they're no more expensive than a regular dormitory, and they provide opportunities for students that are interested in, we'll say, for example, we have one called International Village. And International Village is set up so that students, domestic students room with international students, and they do internationally themed events, and they live in the same floor on the dormitory. We have one called Lexington Engage, and that's for students who are interested in getting involved in the city of Lexington and involved in social causes, things like that. You were part of Lexington Engage. Then can you tell a little bit about your experience there?
Yeah, so I was part of Lex Engaged, and the first semester of my freshman year, we really got to just get to know the history of Lexington, which is really rich. It's some kind of, you know, I'm from Chicago, and so for me it felt different to be in Lexington, and so Lex Engaged really facilitated me being, you know, transitioning into a new environment. There's also, I'm not part of it anymore, but you can continue to be part of the Lex Engage program if you want to be a peer mentor. And so I know that this year, for example, they've done more social justice events. And so if you're interested in that, I think Lex Engaged is really conducive to that. But generally, it was just like a really welcoming community. You know, I was able to make a lot of friends that, you know, you otherwise wouldn't if you just kind of, you know, room with someone else. But Lex Engaged was really a community for me.
That's good.
Yeah, the living learning programs, the whole point is you automatically have a community on campus. It's a group of like-minded or interested individuals. And, you know, we have one specifically for STEM students, which I think is really great because then you might already have your study group built into where you're living. So, you know, those are definitely programs to look into if you're really interested in UK.
You know, another thing it does is, you know, we have faculty and staff that are assigned to those communities, and so what you've done is you've just now taken some of the best mentors on campus and you've made them even more accessible than they already are, and so they're just really great opportunities for students to make that transition. So, all right. So speaking of the living learning programs, you can learn more about it by going to www.as.uky.edu/residential. And then the early action deadline for the living learning programs is February 15th. And the absolute deadline is May 1st. So the earlier you do that, the better. If you wait until May 1st, one of those living learning programs could fill up, and then you'll have to take your second choice. So if you're interested in that, please do the research and then apply. And you apply for that when you apply for housing after you're admitted. So, all right. So now that we've wrapped up those questions, I'm going to give you a few websites in the closing. But don't worry about writing them down. That's fine. They're going to scroll through this whole thing at the end. All right. So we gave you a small glimpse of the social sciences at UK tonight, but we want you to come to campus. If you haven't come yet, come to campus. We do psychology visits every other Friday. We have opportunities for you to meet with professors. We have opportunities for you to go to classes. All those things are available to you. Come to campus. Come see this great facility. Come see this great campus and all the things that we have to offer for you. You can go on the Visitor Center website, and that will be showing up here in a little bit. And that will you can schedule your campus tour that way. And then from there, you can go to the Arts and Sciences website, and then you can schedule the visit with the departments or advisors or whoever you want to talk with. You know, the pre-law Jennifer. So there's a lot of opportunities that you have to do visits on campus, and we want you to do that. Another thing we want you to do is confirm your registration to come to UK, right? So if you've already applied and you've already been admitted, you know, choose your Sea Blue U date, because the way that works is those dates fill up. So when you confirm your date, what you're saying is, yes, I want to come to UK, but then you also schedule your advising conference. And the earlier you schedule your advising conference, the better, because, you know, sometimes people don't really want to take the 9 o'clock class or the 8 o'clock class. And so the 11 o'clock class fills up first.
Yep.
So the earlier you do that, the better selection you have to take the classes you want at the times you want. And it also allows you to set up your plans for the rest of your time. Now, if you haven't applied, what are you waiting for? Apply. Right? Just apply to the university. They've been turning them pretty quickly as far as the admissions decisions. So you can apply, and that website will show up as well. And the regular action deadline for applications is February 15th, and you can do that on the Common App or the UK app as well. I think that's about it. So I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight. I think we had a little bit of fun, and hopefully we were informative. And then I'd like to thank everybody who watched on YouTube and who will watch in the future on YouTube. So hope we've answered all your questions. If not, you can always send us an email at asrecruiting@uky.edu. We'll answer those questions. If you just want a simple question, or if you want to set up a visit and you can't figure out the website, whatever it is, if you want to talk to us, asrecruiting@uky.edu, and we'll take care of you. So with that, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Cats.